Okay, I think we can continue. The next portion of our meeting is an opportunity we make for anyone that would like to address the board. We ask you to keep your comments to about 5 minutes, and please begin by stating your name and address.
We're going to do this before or after?
Before or after what?
Okay, after you guys get done, are we going to have the opportunity to speak, or are we going to do this before?
Our agenda has always had an opportunity for public comment at the beginning of the meeting, and that's what we're doing.
This is it.
I'll speak. My name is Ken Cook. I'm from the town of Plattsburgh, and I did some research on the Union streetlights, more research, and I got some information for you. Now, when I went to work for NYSEG, they gave me a safety manual, big thick manual, about like that. It said right on the front page that these rules comply with or exceed the National Electric Safety Code. I don't know if you've even heard of that. Probably Paul has. This is really the Bible for all electrical workers. And those of us that went through the apprenticeship program, we were extensively tested on our knowledge of the rules in the safety manual. And if the safety man went around and asked you where your manual was, you better know where it was, or you were in trouble. So they were always real serious about safety, because they had lost several people. And so I do know what I'm talking about. I tried to contact the town in Union, but I didn't have much luck. So I got a hold of some NYSEG people in Binghamton, which covers the town of Union area. And I discovered that the town of Union workers, they can only replace the bulbs and clean the lenses on the street lights. They can't go above the light. They have to stay below the light when they're working. They can't get on the poles. The poles are energized at all times, and they have to stay away from poles. Now they hire a qualified contractor to do all their other maintenance work on the lights. And this work has to be in compliance with the NESC code. The part 2 of that code specifies how far you have to stay away from the energized wires, depending on the voltage. There's a different measurement for each voltage class. Now, I think your people wouldn't even know what the voltage is on the wires, so you wouldn't know how far you have to stay away. And I found in 1998 was when the town of Union purchased 6,600 streetlights from NYSEG. They paid $2 million for them. In 2005 and 2006, the New York State Controller's Office did a big study to see if a municipal lighting system would save any money. Those cities involved were Cortland, Ithaca, Oneonta, and the town of Fallsburg, and the town of Vestal. All these are NYSEG territory except Fallsburg, which is Niagara Mohawk, or whatever their new name is. After the study was completed, all 5 of them decided not to go through with buying their lights. They all gave the same reasons. The reasons were too high a purchase price for the lights. They had no bucket truck. They had no qualified personnel to do the work on the lights. And they were unwilling to hire more help to do it. And also, there was the unknown cost for a private contractor to do this work. In 2006, the town of Union spent $658,000 maintaining 6,600 lights. That figures out to $99.70 per light. In 2011, I made a mistake on my numbers on the email I sent to you. They spent $784,000 on those lights. That figures out to be $119 per light. In 2011, the town of Plattsburgh spent $116,000 on 1,300 lights. That figures out $89.23 a light. So Union spent $30 more per light than Plattsburgh did. So it doesn't seem to make much sense to me for us to go that route. I didn't make you guys a copy. All I made was one for Ricky.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, my name is Holly Sims, and I live on Cumberland Head in the town of Plattsburgh. And I have a few comments for the board and for Mr. Bassett. Mr. Bassett, you have stated several times that the town does not have a general tax. Well, this is a matter of semantics. We have a general tax that's called a highway tax. Everyone pays it. We will soon have another general tax called a consolidated lighting tax. Everyone will pay that too. The truth is, our county tax rate is what it is because the town of Plattsburgh, being one of only 3 local municipalities that takes sales tax money from the county, uses the sales tax money instead of levying a general tax. When the town takes the sales tax money from the county, the town taxpayer share of the county tax goes up. If the town decides to cut spending, thereby returning the sales tax money to the county, the taxpayer's share of county taxes would go down. Our county tax rate is dependent upon the spending habits of the town. Spend more, taxes go up, spend less, and taxes go down. In the end, it doesn't matter who the taxing authority is, the city or the town. The taxpayers still foot the bill. Mr. Bassett, you play a shell game with numbers and you massage your words to your advantage, all the while you understand exactly the questions we ask and the comments we make. That, Mr. Bassett, is spin. 2 weeks ago, I inquired about the bookkeeper's expense increasing by 123% from 2010 to 2013. Previously, it was explained the additional bookkeeping was needed by the Town of Plattsburgh Local Development Corporation, yet when we viewed the LDC's 2013-2012 budget, there are no salaries and wages listed. Do you have an answer for that question yet? Have you figured out what happened there? No. My last point is that as a group, the Cumberland Head Taxpayers Association is not going away. We are requesting accountability and transparency by our local government. To that end, I request that all major financial documents be displayed in a prominent location on the town's website and displayed in a timely manner. For example, a link to your audits, AUD reports, comptroller's report, and budget information should be displayed on the town website in a prominent location, perhaps under a tab called Financial Documents. The folks of this town should not have to foil these types of documents. The data should be available to all for inspection and year-to-year comparison. Additionally, if there are repeated FOIL requests for certain documents, then those documents should be displayed as well. The Cumberland Head Taxpayers Association will continue to attend meetings, request documents, and ask questions. Having a website that is helpful and a board that is open, honest, and forthright will add transparency and facilitate better communication. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
My name is Richard Mudd. I live 54 Lehman Lane. on Cumberland Head. The passing of this budget really comes no surprise to me. After attending a number of the town meetings and the budget meetings, it's clear to see that you have your own agenda. And you really care less about the people in this town. The fact is, you have no clue as to the impact your decisions have made on the people in this town. And I can certainly stand before you and talk about that. Even the coverage I made this past weekend, it's mind-boggling what these people are going through. But here's what's surprising to me, is the fact that they're stepping up to the plate and they want to be part of what we're doing to make a change. The fact is, there's a brighter side to this picture, a much brighter side. We the people, we are your boss. Any way you want to cut it, any way you want to say it, we are. We're the one that writes those checks that pays your salary and to help pay for part of this budget. There's no doubt about that part of it. Once people realize that they're not standing alone, they become very energized, wanting to make things happen. And Bernie, I want to tell you something, that is across the board. I mean, 100% of the people I have contacted. It's funny when I talk to people, they don't know the board members, but they know you. And I won't repeat what they say. I'll save you that. And I'll be honest with you, only one person out of everyone I've talked to had anything positive to say. I find that very interesting. They're very eager to learn everything they can about the operation of this town. And I want to tell you something else. We're very eager to share with them everything that we know. I was blown away by the number of people that came forth this weekend to step up to the plate to be part of it, that want to take part. So really, when you get down to the bottom line, the message is this. We are your boss, we write the checks, and we are the voters. The key word here is voters. Voting is the vehicle that will afford us the opportunity to make the kind of changes that we need in this town. And we're going to be working on that. I'll guarantee it. We are not going away. And with the support that we are getting from the people, there's no reason for us to step aside. So we're going to be here, and we're going to be working towards the next elections coming up. We will be there. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Thank you for allowing us to speak here tonight. Appreciate that. I'm here speaking about the general budget. And I hope you take to heart what's been said before me. Mr. Mudd, in terms of speaking to people, doing canvassing, the guy's a pro at that. Spoke to a lot of people on Cumberland Head and the town of Plattsburgh, and the feedback he's getting is that people are looking for a way to participate. They want to participate in the government, and we're hoping that you will take up our challenge of becoming more transparent and allowing the information to flow both ways so that people can participate. This is a democracy. You know, we want to participate in this government, not have things thrown at us blindly, and that we're able to help you construct whatever you're thinking about in terms of plans for the next 10 years, next 20 years, whatever it is. I hope I'm still around in 20 years. The couple specific things, the general tax, again, it seems to be a game of semantics. We do have a general tax that's called the highway tax. We're going to have a new tax called the lighting tax shortly. for everybody, whether they want lighting or not. We're all going to have to share in that pot of cost. And it seems to be a game that the town is playing. The truth is, our county tax rate is what it is because the town of Plattsburgh, being one of only 3 municipalities, takes sales tax money from the county, uses the sales tax money instead of levying a general tax. When the town takes the sales tax money from the county, the town taxpayer's share of county tax goes up. If the town decides to cut spending, thereby returning the sales tax money to the county, our share of county tax goes down. Our county tax rate is dependent on the spending habits of the town. That's been our message all along, the spending habits. We're asking you to freeze the budget, 2012 budget. Freeze it. Stop spending where you're at. Don't go beyond that. Create that as your cap. Where did the 2% cap come from on the tax rates? Is it an artificial cap? Is that something that came from the cost of living adjustments? I mean, if it was 1%, would you have to target 1%? It's an artificial target, 2% growth. Why? Why not 0% growth? Would that be too much to ask? Freeze the budget. That's what we're asking. And move forward. Cut the fat out of 2012. You're looking at me like I'm speaking Greek. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is Greek, right? Okay. The other thing that we keep hearing about is the new businesses in the town. And there have been some new businesses. What I think would be a benefit to us all is to do someone in either SUNY, the Chamber of Commerce, or wherever, to do a study. Let's do a study to see what the direct economic impact is of those businesses and the number of businesses that you've attracted or whoever has attracted to this town, to the county, in the last decade. Has there been a net gain or a net loss? A net gain, minus all the subsidies that are provided to these businesses, these corporations like Bombardier, like Nova Bus, etc., etc. Now maybe there aren't that many subsidies. Maybe I'm not aware of just how they're holding their own. But it seems that when the subsidies dry up, so does the business, so does the employment. There must be some alternatives to that. Some kind of initiative started locally that you can do to start businesses, local businesses, small businesses. It just seems that whenever some political figure throws out this concept of we're bringing new business to the town, well, how long does that business last? How many net jobs are gained through that? What is the payment per hour? Are they minimum hour jobs? Are they high rate pay jobs? Are they management jobs? Nobody seems to know. We would like to know. I've talked to a couple people who work for Bombardier, and now they're no longer employed by Bombardier. They worked there for quite a few years. They're local people. They're bred, educated here in the North Country. When it came top positions open up for top executives or one of the middle management positions in one of these big corporations, they were let go. People from Montreal were hired, put in those positions. So I ask, what is the net gain? I would love to see a long-term study, some kind of longitudinal study. What is the impact on Clinton County, on the town of Plattsburgh, of all these businesses? What are they? It should be easy to list. And what is the net gain? What's the impact to this county, to the town? I think it would be a good thing to reassess where we're at and where we're going. Is this really a benefit to the town? Because they are costly. These big businesses are costly to the town, as far as we can determine. The cash balance, we've obviously hit some nerves on that. We're saying it's $6.5 million. You do have reserve dollars with all your accounts. There's a number of accounts. If you tally that up, you come out with at least $6.5 million. That's money that's available. It might have to be moved around, might have to be changed, reappropriated, what have you, but I'm sure that can be done if there was a shortfall in one of these accounts, such as your general account and your general services fund. The municipal lighting plan, I really have a problem with that. Ken Cook has talked to you about that. His expertise goes back many years. He's a professional, he's an expert in safety. I have a pretty strong background in safety, and let me tell you, if I was running that crew, I wouldn't want them anywhere near a 100,000 volt line without some kind of training, thorough training that these people will go through, because they're going to be at risk. Hopefully you've got the insurance for these people now, which you said you didn't have before. Anyway, that's just a ditto on our people that spoke before me, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else?
John, St. Germain, Kaysville, New York. I saw your, in my opinion, article in today's Press Republican, and Super Bassett states that amounts pertaining to the budget have been inaccurate. So let's take a look at a few of the statements the supervisor makes. He states that you have a zero tax rate. You know, and I know, and everybody knows, it takes $2 million to keep the general fund going. We take the sales tax money. I have a house in Scholar Falls. I have one in the town of Plattsburgh. The tax rate in the town of Scholar Falls, the county tax rate, is $2.95. In the town of Plattsburgh, the county tax rate is $6.03. In your article in the paper, you state that we have zero tax rate. Then you state that the tax rate for the highway department is 67 cents. Well, the tax rate in the highway department is actually, you use 1.4 million to get that sales tax to 67 cents, but actually it equates to about $2.17 a thousand, or $2.27. It's 10 cents less than the county average for all the other towns. But actually, the tax rate for the for the highway in the town of Scholar Falls is only $1.54. So taxes in the town of Plattsburgh are almost twice as much as what the taxes in the town of Scholar Falls are. About that.
You break it, you own it.
Yeah.
You already paid for it.
I paid for it. It's over. Also, you state that you talk about the wonderful infrastructure the town has, the water, the sewer, and what have you. Well, the last administration and prior ones to that are the ones that should get credit for the infrastructure. You guys have not started a project in the last 4 years that I know of. You finished up the Moffett Road and the Champlain Park pumping station, which was initiated by the prior administration. You state in your article, in my opinion, how you agonize over each decision. And I know how you suffer when you take a 2 to 3% raise, even when you are all paid 3 times as much as any town board. When you pass a resolution giving a councilman an extra $1,000 a month for extra pay, I certainly see the agony in your eyes and face. I I feel based on your article, you should not be accusing other people of making inaccurate statements, as yours is certainly full of holes, Brian. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just wanted to say one more thing. My name is John Andrews. I forgot to say that in the beginning of the last remarks, okay? I live in Cumberland Head. I've watched that video that we took a couple days ago on the budget hearing. It was a Thursday night meeting. And the most interesting and most informative piece of that whole tape was the second part, the last hour. And it's not so much body language, and it's basically every time someone spoke, and mostly it was you, Mr. Bassett, that and Mr. Mannix, when you spoke about something as a priority or an issue, you always said it was business. It was business, business. You always put some reason, when you're framing your arguments, you're framing the argument with business number one. Where are the people in this equation? Where are the people that are subjected to the tax rates? Where are the people in your discussions? It seems that your priority is always business. It's making a buck, generating a buck, attracting the big boxes, attracting whatever it is that it takes to light up the town. But it seems that people are not the primary interest of this board. It's just an observation I made from that tape. You should go back and watch it. I mean, you've got a tough job, there's no doubt about it. But why aren't we in the number one in that equation? And I don't think we are. If you listen to the last half of that tape, you'll see why. I'm saying what I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who hasn't spoken that would like to?
Gary Guds, I live on Newell Avenue. Last Tuesday was the first time I came to one of these meetings, and by the way, I do not belong to the Cumberland Head Taxpayers Group. The only taxpayers group that I belong to is the one that's trying to keep tabs on the Beacontown School District, which is another question, another problem. But what I did notice at the last meeting, some of the statements that were made. Mr. Mannix, I've known you for many years. I kind of take offense to some of the statements you made, and when you singled out certain people, and I'm assuming that most of them were in this group, when you brought up their assessments, what their school tax was, what their other tax was, but how little their supposedly town of Plattsburgh tax was going to increase. I don't think that that was anything that was very professional to be brought up, and I don't think you should single out anybody. They were the first ones to start this group, but I would assume there are people that do not belong, who do not live in the town of, in Cumberland Head, that belong to the group. So, you know, I just think that that was inappropriate. And Mr. Bassett, I've known you for many years. You know, we go way back. And I think some of the statements you make about we have no control over the school tax, we have no control over the fire department tax, we have no control over this tax, but it's still taxes that the people pay. And as they're paying, you know, maybe their town tax is a little less, but we got to start someplace. I mean, the foreclosures are there, and you know, we're not just picking on the town; they're picking on the school districts, fire department. Unfortunately, we don't even have a vote in the budget. I was a commissioner for 1 year. They threw me off because I started to question how they were spending their money, and they didn't like that. So that's my only thing I got to say.
Okay, is there anyone else?
My name is Steve Blake, and I live on Cumberland Head. I hadn't planned to say anything this evening, but I did want to address the statement that you made, Mr. Bassett, in the newspaper about the inaccuracy of certain information that has been publicly said. I don't know what information you're stating or you are mentioning as being inaccurate, but I will tell you that the information, as you know, I've done a lot of foiling. I'm the foil queen, 300 foils. The information that I foiled from the town states that the town has $6,592,000 in cash. in their fund balances. You seem to say that we were saying that money was in the general fund. That was never said. Flyers that were out came from information that came from the comptroller's office. It came from the town of Plattsburgh audits. It came from the town of Plattsburgh AUDs. That came from individuals' income tax or county tax statements, and from assessment rolls. So as far as I know, all the information that's floating around out there that has been produced by our group, by the Cumberland Head Taxpayers Association, is accurate. And I think it was very disingenuous for you to say that. Where you get your information, I don't know. But I know that the information we have put out is accurate.
Hi, I'm Jim Barkman, Cumberland Head. First meeting I ever showed up at was last week, I think the 12th, I think it was. And I take response to Mr. Bassett talking about the lighting district, and you mentioned in your comment that you drove down the road in some development, I think it was Heritage Heights, I really don't know, remember the place you're talking about, the exact community, but you said that the streets were lined with lights and that you felt that they were getting away without paying those lights for years. And the only question I have is, how does the town pay for any of their bills? Through the taxpayers? All of us. We all pay taxes. So the lights had to get paid by us, wherever they're placed or no matter where they are. From January 1st to December 31st, your bills were paid for by us, the taxpayers. So I took very much offense when you said they were getting away without paying for these lights. It doesn't make any sense to me. You don't produce anything. You don't make cars, you don't make boats, you don't sell things, you're not a private sector, you're a public sector, you work for us. So when you said, like I said, when you said that these people have been getting away without paying for those lights, we always pay for those lights. We always have, before you even came along. That's all I have to say.
Is there anyone else? Okay. And I'm going to also try and be brief because we do have an agenda this evening. But there are a couple comments I want to make, and I've asked Paul to share some of the work he recently did as well. I don't know if you want to do it now or do it before the resolution, but either one. But I'm going to start with Jim, and I'm awful glad. I was going to start backwards with Debbie because I was kind of glad what she said as well. But really, Jim, I think your concerns summarize a lot of things. And we do take this group's concerns seriously. I'd be less than honest with all of you if I didn't say, and I'll speak for myself, that sometimes it's frustrating. It is very time consuming. I've said more than once to Deborah that when there's a watchful eye, it makes us be very careful about what we're doing. Probably won't make us perfect. I don't know who or what is, but it sure is always in the back of my mind anyway when I write something, make decisions, say things. But I too am human. And questions do need to be asked so you can get answers. Ultimately, my name came up a lot tonight. Ultimately, there's a penny up here. I don't know if somebody put that up because it's my tip or what I'm worth. Ultimately, we can't, the information, even the truth, can't always be satisfying. It can't give you what you need. It's going to make happiness necessarily. I can honestly say that while I've been involved in town government, I think we've worked well together. We tried to do the right thing. We tried to make hard decisions. And anytime you make a decision, there's a win, there's a loss. It's tough to do. Jim, your comment about the lights, you're 100% right. That's what I said. And I meant to imply somebody wasn't paying the bill. up to this point, we've had lighting districts, and the residents who were in a district that had a direct benefit of the street light like I have outside my street. I kind of wish it were at the end of my driveway, and it's late at night or early in the morning. I could see better when I'm blowing the snow, but those people paid for that based on the request to have a street light or the request of where they live to have a row of lights in their street. As we pulled this together, we did find an area that was a new street with a number of new homes, and streetlights got put in, and those individuals did not have a streetlight assessment. You're right. Everybody pays something. I mean, the bill got paid, but it didn't get paid as the other bills were being paid by residents who lived in a district paying for a service they asked for. If you don't have public sewer, you don't pay a sewer rate. If you have public sewer, you would pay for the service. That's logical. There are things that are done at large because there's a benefit. Public education is and has been for a number of years facing a real issue because we saw today probably a great deal of support for our recreation programs by children that participate, parents that value them, they participate. Those programs would be supported. There's a sense of those people getting something. Today in our communities, fewer and fewer and fewer families send children to school. Their only relationship with school is a bill every year, and it's a bill that keeps going up. So it's very frustrating. I mean, you're right and I'm right. Those lights were not being paid for by the people who requested them that got a direct benefit under the system that existed. And you're right, everybody else did, which I don't think was fair because that isn't the way it was supposed to work. And those are the things that happen. It's a little like Mrs. Blake talking about my comment on the inaccuracies. And I think the first time that I heard Ducky's name was dropped tonight, literally, I suppose I could as well. The first time I heard that on the radio broadcast, my immediate was, oh my God, where'd that money come from? Because I'm not aware of it. And I think I might have come in and talked with Diane that morning, and she very quickly reminded me that is the last page of the AUD that said we had that much money. And I guess we do somewhere. And I'm not the financial genius. Every time someone criticizes me for not doing well, I just have to think they're wise because I'm not the financial genius. We have people that have special skills, they have expertise. I don't care if it's driving a snowplow or repairing a water line or doing a budget. There's a reason for that. So I asked, how could this be? My God, what's this about? And it's about, my analogy, I guess, and it may or may not be a good one, but it's my analogy, is in my house, the week that my wife gets paid, and I get paid, and the kids might come in the door and say, can we go to Disney World this week? I don't think so. If they look at the checkbook, it would look like we could go to Disney World this week. It looks pretty fluff. I don't know about all you, but I know taxes are coming soon, and we all better be prepared. You don't wait. The town is much like that, and I often draw analogies to families. We're a family, in many ways. And those dollars are tagged. Mr. Andrus mentioned that we could just move them around. If we did, you won't have to stare at me much longer because somebody's going to take me away. That's against the law. Most of those funds are tagged to particular districts that have been raised by particular assessments and must be used there. And beside that, nobody quoted me as saying I was, somewhere I think I did, say that I was proud we had some reserve. My God, we better. What we're starting to see with municipalities around us is those that, and I saw it coming a couple of years ago, there is a fiscal crisis in New York State. One of the things that was discovered was especially school districts were sitting on some pretty healthy surplus. That it was decided was probably in excess of what should be held. I believe it's 10% is recommended. There's a point at which maybe 12% is healthy. Maybe 15 becomes unhealthy. I don't know. But the demand was the state can't keep underwriting the cost. You're going to have, the rainy day is here. Go on your rainy day and start drawing it down. But the rainy day continued another year, and it continued another year. And the reserves are gone. And there are a lot of things we can't control. I've heard the phrase, freeze the budget. I wish I could. If I could freeze the budget, we probably wouldn't have too many problems. But insurance goes up, gas goes up, diesel goes up, materials go up, salaries go up. We haven't given the ranch away. Our employees, as compared to some others, are not overpaid. Some are more than others, some are less. Mr. St. Germain always likes to talk about the high cost of local government. And I often remind him he was part of that. And he'll remind me that he was going to vote against the budget, and then I remind him he still took his paycheck. You can't compare, and in some ways, maybe if we did compare this board to another board that meets once a month, and we times what they get times 4 and some of the other committee activity, maybe that'd be easier. It is a little pricey. I think we've got people that are good stewards of, a number of times tonight I was reminded who my boss was. I thought it was my wife, but that may not be the case.
One of us. She's one of us.
She's one of you, yeah, you're right. But you know what's funny, Debbie, and I said that to you one day a few years ago, I'm also one of you. And I remember being on that side of this table thinking some of the things you're thinking. And, it was like, yeah, attaboy Bernie, why don't you jump in there? And as soon as you get to this side of the table, it changes. I don't have my own agenda other than to try and have a good, balanced budget. I do think progressively, there was some question tonight about the cost of business. Ask some of our neighbor municipalities what the value of that is, and they would tell you. We're seeing some of the communities that now are getting a benefit from the windmills, which really is just an enormous help to keep the cost of services down. For us to plow your roads, those of you that have public water, public sewer, there's a price. We're trying to do it with the right tools. We're trying to attract the right people. I recently did last week we did a tour of Novabus. One of the things I heard their general manager talk about is, he was sharing a story about Henry Ford and how during the Depression, Henry Ford doubled the wage of his assembly line crew. The other thing he changed was you could have a Model T in any color black you wanted. There were a number of things he did that made him highly successful. But this young man who was managing the line crew had learned that story. And that Henry Ford knew that if he was going to get the best, most committed employees that would produce a product that could make his company profitable, that would be one way. And the rest is kind of history. There's a fine line there, and we know that. I don't think we've crossed it. It's not easy. We could do some things different, but I think, at least all I can do is share that we are making what we believe are responsible decisions for the future as well as now. If a community is not growing, you're dying. I'm not sure if I took it the right way, but when I'm accused of constantly talking about business, that's one thing I've learned, because that wasn't my natural background, that if we run this like a business, department heads know when they come to me for something, I'm probably going to say, how are you going to pay for it? Run your department like a business. Be efficient. Take good care of your employees. Produce. Come to work ready to work. I don't think that's a bad thing. As I said as was said in the opinion piece, we acknowledge these are some tough times for folks. We don't take that lightly. But there are things we still need to do. Your words have been heard. They had been heard before. If you did go away, we were reminded a few times tonight, you're not going away, fine. If you did go away, the message wouldn't go away. It's been heard. You know, and I'll commend any group for wanting to be actively engaged. Mrs. Blake has, for a number of months and years, brought herself here. You know, well, I like to believe you came before me. I want to know it's not just to see me. I didn't start
My
this
husband
passion.
retired just about the time you came in, but I was a little bit before.
So I'm a convenience of yours. All right, I get it. But you know, and the press acknowledged that one time. She was really bird dogging this town. And I hope I say this right, but I bet I'll read somewhere I said it wrong. It reminds me of how I used to, you know, tell the kids in school, when your parents all over your butts because they care. And as a result of that, you'll probably study a little harder and hopefully one day say, I didn't realize it then, Mom, but thank you. That's how it works. And tomorrow, we're still going to make decisions. But we're not making them ignorant of the concerns. The spin is spin. You know, many times it's also the view and the perspective. And I think it's a lot like that surplus. Yeah, there's some money lying around there. It's not our money. We can't put it wherever we want. We can't use it for whatever we want. And it's not as great as we think. The auditors have told us we need to increase the surplus. They're concerned that we spend surplus that's yet to be gained from the current year into the next year. And we've been trying. It's not easy. Now, we do have an agenda, and I like to let the people that might watch this on cable TV have a chance to see the kinds of things that happen. So I do need to get going. And Paul, do you want to share what you discovered now, or do you want to do it at the resolution?
I can do it, whichever you prefer.
I'm thinking at the resolution it could be captured for that. We've had a lot of talk tonight. I think it's time to move on. Resolution number 310, abstract 11B.
Resolved that the abstract of audit claims number 11B-12, 2509 to 2617 for $360,706.36, and abstract 11B-12, 471 to 491 prepaid in the amount of $500,538.48 be received as reviewed by the audit committee, and the supervisor is hereby authorized to pay said abstract.
Have a motion. Mr. Lemoy, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood. Mark Mannix.
Yes.
Paul Moy.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, I didn't know Mr. Wood had left. We've got 3 votes. The resolution still carries. Resolution 311, Codes and Zoning Department Monthly Report.
Resolved to receive and place on file a report from Stephen Imhouse, Code Enforcement Officer, for the month of October 2012.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Mannix, second. Mr. Lemoy, any discussion? Roll call.
Martin Mannix.
Yes.
Paul Moy.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 312, Highway Superintendent's Monthly Report.
Resolved to receive and place on file a report from James Wood, Highway Superintendent, for the month of October 2012.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Lemoy, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion? Roll call.
Martin Mannix.
Yes.
Paul Moy.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. It's making me nervous now. Resolution 313, Supervisor's Monthly Financial.
Resolved to receive and place on file a supervisor's financial report for the month of October 2012.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Mannix, second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoyne, any discussion? Roll call.
Martin Mannix,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, the resolution carries. Resolution 314, Town Clerk's Monthly Report.
Resolved to receive and place on file a report from Rick Collins, Town Clerk, for the month of October 2012.
Have a motion. Mr. Mannix, second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoyne, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Mannix,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 315, Water and Wastewater Department's Monthly Report.
Resolved to receive and place on file a report from Scott Stoddard, Water and Wastewater Department Director, for the month of October 2012.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Mannix,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 316, Retirement of Dennis Seymour.
Whereas Dennis Seymour, Machine Operator 2 in the Highway Department, has announced his intent to retire effective June 1st, 2013. Therefore be resolved that the town board accept and place on file Mr. Seymour's letter of notice of retirement. And be further resolved, at this point of his retirement on June 1st, 2013, the supervisor sent a letter of congratulations on behalf of the town board, thanking Mr. Seymour for his dedication and service to the town. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the highway superintendent, a copy be placed in Mr. Seymour's personnel file, and one be given to the finance manager to initiate the retirement process with the New York State retirement
Have a
system.
motion. Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Lemoyne, any discussion?
Just as a matter of courtesy, I'd suggest on this one that we have a situation where Jerry Rennet could share in making the motion and I could share in making the second. So that we'd have all four councilmen involved in the motion. And then Mr. Bassett authorized.
I'm not sure how or if I can do that. It's new turf.
Well,
He's
certainly,
not present.
no, he can't vote for it.
Nope.
He's not here.
You can't
Yeah.
vote in this abstention, and I doubt he could make the
I mean,
motion.
I'm sure he'd vote for it. But you can't say, yeah, we don't need, you don't have to talk, Steve.
No, he can't vote for it, but.
No.
it'd be no
Your intentions are more than honorable. I had a couple more emails this morning from Jerry. He even alluded to that the doctor, I told him he couldn't come tonight. He was being discharged today from Vermont, and I told him I'm glad the doctor ordered you not to come. He does want to be here, and I'm sure he'll appreciate your efforts in enabling him to participate, and we'll encourage him to, and I'm sure he will let Dennis know, he was in support of his retirement. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood? Yes. Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne?
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, motion is carried. Resolution 317, Planning Department typist position and Planning Board Secretary appointment recommendation.
Whereas Tamara Shepherd, clerk typist for the town of Plattsburgh Planning Department, resigned effective September 7, 2012, leaving a vacancy for typist in the Planning Department. Whereas Resolution 11361 appointed Michelle Buckminster to the position of typist for the town of Plattsburgh. And whereas a letter received from the Planning Department requesting Ms. Buckminster to fill the position of typist in the Planning Board Secretary. And whereas Ms. Buckminster has served in the Planning Department in the interim and has experience in that position. Now therefore be resolved that the town board, town of Plattsburgh, does accept the recommendation that Michelle Buckminster be appointed to the position of typist in accordance with the terms and conditions of the clerical agreement currently in force for a probationary period of 12 months effective immediately, pending civil service approval. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager and civil service personnel department.
Have a motion. Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion?
I think we want to add that a copy be given to Mr. Buckman, too.
To the file. Tom, and you would accept that
Yes.
amendment to the resolution? Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Mannix,
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 318, appointment of Kyle Karofsky as a laborer in the Water Wastewater Department.
Whereas there is a vacancy in the Water Wastewater Department for a position of laborer, and whereas Kyle Karofsky has been working in the Water and Wastewater Department on a temporary work assignment since January 2012. Whereas the Director and Supervisors of the Water and Wastewater Department have conducted interviews of eligible candidates and have recommended Kyle Karofsky to fill the labor position vacancy. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board, Town of Plattsburgh, does hereby authorize the hiring and appointment of Kyle Karofsky to the position of laborer as recommended by the interview committee at a pay rate as established by the negotiating agreement of $15.13 an hour, effective with the first full pay period following approval of ordinance with the terms and conditions of the Teamster agreement currently in force, with a probationary period of 12 months effective immediately pending final civil service approval. And be further resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign all necessary documents for the full-time appointment of Kyle Karofsky to the position of labor. And be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager, Water and Wastewater Department director, and a certified copy also be forwarded to Clinton County Department of Personnel for final approval and filing.
Have a motion. Mr. Mannix, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, any discussion?
Yeah, Bernie, I would just ask that, since we didn't get this in the work session, and I do have a couple questions to this, and I wasn't able to contact MA Water and Sewer today, that we table this until the work session, and go on that.
I
Okay,
just had a meeting with the director, assistant director of the department, and I feel that this particular appointment is a very good appointment. He has environmental science background, he has a GIS, good background in that. He's been a good employee for us up to this point. He has leadership capability to do this. They went through the interviews of 3 or 4 people, and while they were good candidates, this one stood out. So they're recommending that.
And I understand that, but normally this goes through a work session process. We have a chance to discuss it, and because it's a personnel matter, any discussion we have would take place in executive session, and I just would like that opportunity to do that before we go on.
We could go to executive session tonight, or do you need other information?
I guess that would suffice, yeah.
We can do that.
okay, you had, we've continued the discussion. You formally had a motion to table. Did we have a second to table? Let me wrap that part up first.
I'll withdraw that if we're going to go to executive
Okay,
session tonight.
then would you like to do that at the end of the evening and
Yes.
bring this back?
Push this to the back of the file.
Okay, I'm just going to cross it in the pile. Counselor, do I need to formally table it, or can I just leave it with no action right now? So we'll have no action on that resolution and go forward. I guess just for the record at this point, we had been running without filling a position for a while, and then we did have Kyle join us as part of a program that was no expense to the town. His salary was being paid. Then with the untimely death of Dave King, we were back with a bit of a void, but the trigger to all this was that the funding for Kyle's position was ending, so we would have gone from a void to a big hole in the department, and that's why it's being raced along a bit. But you certainly, it's personnel, I think that's more than appropriate, Paul, and we'll go to an executive session at the end. We often discuss whether or not there'll be action after it. In this case, there'll be some action after it, either to table this, pass it, or voted down. Resolution 319, NYSEG streetlight agreement for the purchase of street lighting poles, luminaries, lamps, mast arms, electrical connections, and lighting.
Whereas the New York State Electric and Gas Corporation owns and has for many years operated and maintained a system of street lighting poles, luminaries and lamps, mast arms, electrical connections, and wirings for street lights installed throughout the town. Whereas on January 1, 2013, the town of Plattsburgh Lighting District will have been merged into a single town-wide lighting district. And whereas it has been determined that it is in the best interest of all property owners in the town that the municipality take ownership of the street lights, facilitating, as noted in the agreement from New York State Electric and Gas Corporation. And whereas Art Bro, Building and Grounds Maintenance Supervisor, as indicated in the attached letter, has completed a review of the inventory of streetlights and finds that NYSEG report is to be accurate, and therefore be resolved that the town board is hereby authorized the purchase of the facilities as indicated by the attached agreement. And it be further resolved that after final review and approval by the town attorney, the supervisor is authorized to enter into an attached agreement with NYSEG to purchase the inventory, and the finance manager is also authorized to seek a bid for the purchase of $400,000. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager and Mr. Broke.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Lemoy, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion?
I guess, you want me to talk about this now?
Yeah, we haven't talked, but Paul, I believe, spent a couple hours Saturday morning with Mr. Bro following up on concerns that we had to get some, to revisit it, I think, as much as anything. I think we had answers, and what did you learn, Paul?
Yep. Actually, I spent almost 3 hours with Art Bro, who is actually going to be taking on this project once the town board approves this. A couple of things that I just want to point out, and mostly in response to Mr. Cook's items that he brought forth to the town board. And Mr. Cook, I hope you understand that I do respect and understand your opinion and respect, and I know a lot of NYSEG workers. I'm, as you know, a union electrician myself. I've been for 27 years now, and my father for 35 years before me, so I have extensive background in the industry also. Work on utility poles and installing services and what have you for a living. So I did take all of your information serious. I went back. I wanted to make absolutely certain that our people were competent and were settled in, that we're going to take this over and that they're able to do this repairs. And that's what I wound up coming up with. I know one of your points was you think that New York State Electric and Gas is going to be installing the disconnects that are on the poles, and it's not true. The town of Plattsburgh is going to be installing them. Art Bros purchased them, has absolutely no question in the ability to put these disconnects on. They're a very simple installation. They 1/4 turn on the screws, locks the cable in. It's a fuse disconnect and it straps to the pole. You said that they were designed for underground use. They're the exact disconnects that New York State Electric and Gas specs to hang on the pole and strap to the pole, so it's their requirement. You asked about tagging the poles. I asked Art about it, and he said yes, he would tag them. While we're not required to actually number the pole for our numbering sake, he was going to, so that he could keep track of poles he serviced. It would cost about $1 per tag, and they would obviously do it when they were putting the disconnects on. So your estimate of $56,000 for NYSEG to install that is really going to be the town installing them, and we have a 2-year grace period from the time we sign the contract, or actually, Public Service Commission approves it, to actually get those disconnects installed. Another question of yours or concern was the amount of burnout that we're going to have in lights. You stated that an average light has about 18,000 hours, and I brought in Thermalux high pressure sodium lamps. Obviously the people that own my contracting company own Champlain Valley Electric, and it says dual arc tubes deliver 40,000 hours rated average life versus 24,000 hours rated average life for a standard high pressure sodium lamp. So the estimate is if we wind up purchasing these, it's almost more than double what you estimated for burnouts. Your concern about the bucket truck, I took the longest distance that you can travel from town of Plattsburgh in the town. It's about 11 miles to the furthest point. If we drove that every single day, we'd put about 5,500 miles per year on the truck. With the vehicle repair shop and mechanics that we have, there's no doubt in my mind that the truck is going to last far longer than 10 years. Our plow trucks do now, and we put many more miles on them every year than that. I talked to Art Bro about actually doing the work and the personnel he was going to have, and I'll tell you, you people probably know Art Bro. He's the fire chief out in Cumberland Head. He's no stranger to any of you. Art really took offense to the fact that his department was being questioned, that they were maybe had a bloated workforce if they were going to take on this project. And he actually said that he understands the requirements of this job and his department will take it on. They'll get the job done. They won't need any other additional personnel. They'll just slide it into the amount of work that they do every single week and they'll get it done. For those of you that don't know, Art did probably about a $30,000 or $40,000 remodel to the court system downstairs. It came in under budget and probably, my estimation, probably $100,000 less than if we had contracted that work out to outside contractors. So Art certainly does have the expertise to do this. I mean, Art's training, he is building grounds manager, he's also the town safety director and Cumberland Head's fire chief. I don't know that there's anybody who has more safety training than Art Bro, especially with his fire service and what have you. Art has no intention of putting anybody in harm's way, and if he had one question whatsoever about the work he was going to do on the pole, trust me, for 3 hours I grilled him on what we were going to do. He showed me a book probably about as thick as the one you referenced in the safety program that he was going to be putting on for the guys that were going to be doing this, including highway personnel who also go up and trim trees around the high voltage lines and do that kind of work, that right now wind up doing that with his training already. So he already has some safety policies in place that he trains those guys and does that. Some of them are going to be high voltage line identification and awareness, an OSHA training and requirement course, an NFPA training requirement course, a bucket truck training and hazard identification training course, along with a street lighting repair training course. So he's put it all together. He's on top of it. He's ready to do the work, and trust me, it's going to be at no additional manpower required in that department, and he's certain of that. You did question whether we're buying poles and wire. We're not. We're only buying light fixtures. The poles and the wire that are there, NYSEG is going to continue to maintain and own.
I'll jump in there just for the record. There are, I picked up on poles in the contract, spoke with Dave Gridley. There are, I don't remember the exact number, very, very few, half a dozen maybe or fewer, poles that NYSEG put in solely for the purpose of us to have a street light. If we didn't buy those poles, they would have to pull them out at our expense and we'd have to put them back. So there are a handful that weren't up for any other reason than a street light.
Okay. And then your most important issue, Ken, was the issue of safety, and I'll just reiterate that Art's goal, my goal, everybody that works here at the town of Plattsburgh, including our plow drivers and water and sewer employees, is everybody goes home for dinner every night. I mean, safety is utmost concern. Art has no doubt that his training program is going to be effective, and he even said, when we put it together, look through it, if there's something he thinks that we're missing, he's going to add that to it. He has every intention of contacting NYSEG personnel. He's actually talked to Bill LaPlante, who I'm sure you know, and has talked to Bill about coming in and doing some of the training, some other NYSEG employees to help do the training and what have you. So I'm confident that he's covered the bases and that we're going to be able to take this over very efficiently.
There is another town that have done it.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion?
I would just like to address the issue as the person who seconded the motion. I think it's an outstanding example where a counselor has taken on a project, has done a thorough analysis of the project, brought forth the kind of information that we had to have to consider moving forward with the project. And I would like to point out that one of the other comments that was made was that some other municipalities backed away from such arrangements because of the pricing. I can tell you we would have backed away from the pricing that they started with. Paul did a magnificent job of negotiating with NYSEG on this arrangement, and it was a, it was a stare-down negotiation is the way I would describe it. And yet, when the project was done, I think, you correct me, Paul, but it's almost half of what the original price was quoted as to be, and not subject to negotiation. Well, it got negotiated, and consequently, I think we have an opportunity as a town to enter into this arrangement and take control over a product and a process that was costing us money unnecessarily. And one of the things that I think more towns need to be looking at is how can they get into new ventures that are cost effective for the town to get into. If we can't find ways to increase revenue without going to taxes, we're going to be cursed to have an ever-increasing tax load. This situation is going to give us an opportunity to control the costs of our lighting and to control the taxation associated with that, with those services. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Mark Manick?
Yes.
Paul Moy?
Yes.
George, Bernie Bassett?
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 320, narrow banding mandate from FCC and standardizing town two-way radios.
Whereas to promote more efficient use of the VHF and UHF land mobile frequency bands, the Federal Communication has passed a narrow band mandate that goes into effect on January 1, 2013, requiring licensees operating on 25 kilohertz radio systems to operate on 12 kilohertz. Whereas the town of Plattsburgh owns and maintains over 100 two-way radios, portable radios, and its own repeater system that must be brought into compliance now. It is in the best interest of the town to standardize its radios to minimize the cost of service, parts, and inventory. Whereas the majority of the town's two-way radio equipment, including the repeater, is Motorola, making it less expensive to continue to use Motorola equipment and bringing the other radios into this standard. Now therefore be resolved as recommended in the attached letter from Building and Maintenance Supervisor Art Rowe, the attached compliance documents that the town standardized a two-way radio using Motorola radios, parts, and equipment, with radios being reprogrammed where possible. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the Building Maintenance Supervisor and to the Finance Manager.
A motion. Mr. Woods, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Mark Manick?
Yes.
Paul Moy?
Yes.
Bernie Bassett?
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 321, request to enter into an agreement to purchase photocopiers and enter into a lease and service agreement with Synthesizer.
Well, certain town of Plattsburgh photocopy equipment is in need of replacement, and a new service agreement must be agreed upon. And whereas New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA, has announced a $1.1 million equipment rebate program to help small municipal governments reduce energy costs that will pay 75% of the purchase price of eligible products. Now, whereas the supervisor, budget officer, and IT specialists have reviewed the proposed replacement outdated equipment with new energy efficient equipment that will help reduce the cost and better manage office needs. Therefore be resolved that upon review and approval by the town attorney, the supervisor is authorized to enter into a purchase agreement for 3 copiers that are on a state contract and eligible for NYSERDA reimbursement for the amount not to exceed $15,000, and enter into a 60-month lease agreement with SimQuest Technologies of 299 Arizona Avenue, Suite 201, Plattsburgh, New York 12901, to lease 1 copier at a rate of $343.65 per month with a service contract for all 4 machines at a rate of $233 per month for 60 months. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second. Mr. Wood, any discussion? I think we had gone over that in a work session, but the NYSERDA reimbursements began in September. The limited amount they have is shrinking. What we're hoping is if this passes, they will be able to freeze is a good word tonight, freeze an amount of money that we would be then eligible for when they get final documentation on the purchase. We, I believe, are able to do that with by sharing the resolution and so on. But that enables us to receive 75% of the cost of these machines, so we'll own them versus lease, and our lease agreements will be, I believe, about $100 a month less than they might otherwise. So it's as well as some of the efficiencies with how we'll be redirecting photocopy needs, et cetera, print needs, which is pretty expensive. So I think this we'll see as a budget-friendly move. Any other discussion? Didn't get too much. I just gave you an infomercial. Okay, roll call, please.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Martin Manick?
Yes.
Paul Lemoy?
Yes.
Bernie Bassett?
Yes, resolution carries, and we will jump on that as quick as we can because those funds are shrinking. Resolution 322, completed assessment rolls for 2013.
Whereas the town board, town of Plattsburgh, has met at the time and place specified in the notice of the public hearing to review the completed assessment rolls for the water, sewer, stormwater management, highway districts, and heard all persons desiring to be heard thereon. Now therefore be resolved that the completed assessment roll be and hereby adopted as the annual assessment roll of the town of Plattsburgh. And it be further resolved that the supervisor shall prepare and certify in duplicate copies of the assessment roll for benefit improvements adopted pursuant to section 116-202A, subdivision 2 of the town law, and deliver 1 copy thereof to the Clinton County Board of Legislators. And it be further resolved that the finance officer be given a copy of this resolution.
A motion.
So moved.
Mr. Lemoy, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, any discussion?
In the resolution, I hope I'm remembering it right. I believe that when we met last on the 12th, that we, maybe it was the 8th, on the 8th, that in addition to the water, sewer, stormwater management, and highway districts, we also reviewed the assessment rolls in the lighting districts.
Yep. I had made a little note with a question mark. I wasn't sure to follow up. I don't, anybody else's recollection on that in the minutes? That would probably be a good way to go. And ambulance, was that in?
Yep.
We've got to add ambulance and lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Paul, you would
Yes.
approve the amendment to add the lighting and ambulance districts as well. And Tom, you seconded?
Yes.
As amended, roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Martin Manick?
Yes.
Paul Lemoy?
Yes.
Bernie Bassett?
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 323, the adoption of the 2013 budget.
Whereas the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board has met at the time and place specified in the notice of the public hearing to review the entire 2013 preliminary budget and heard all persons desirous to be heard upon. Now therefore be resolved that after the public hearing and meeting with department heads, the preliminary budget was amended and hereby is adopted as the final budget for the Town of Plattsburgh for the fiscal year beginning first day of January 2013, and that the budget is adopted be entered in detail in the minutes excuse me, minutes of the proceedings of the town board. And as it further resolved that the supervisor shall prepare and certify in duplicate copies of said annual budget as adopted by this town board together with the assessment rolls for the benefit of improvements adopting pursuant to section 116 and 202A subdivision 2 of the town law. And then deliver one copy thereof to the Clinton County Board of Legislators, and it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the finance officer.
Have a motion. Mr. Wood, second.
No, that was Mr. Manning.
I'm sorry,
I'll
Mr. Manning. Okay, thank you, Tom. Any discussion?
Yeah, just in the main copy, if we could just change the name on page 7.
That's of justice that no longer
Yeah,
works for
the
the town?
final budget.
Nothing.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manick,
Yes.
Paul Moy,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 324, request to re-levy delinquent water and sewer charges.
Excuse me. Whereas the Water and Wastewater Director has reviewed outstanding water and sewer bills to determine those that are delinquent with outstanding balances due to the Town of Plattsburgh, and has recommended that the total re-levy in the amount of $210,798.17 be approved by the Town Board. Now therefore be resolved that the delinquent water and sewer charge in their respective districts for 2012, as recommended by the Water and Wastewater Director, be accepted and placed on file, and that a copy of a list of delinquent accounts be forwarded to the Clinton County Board of Legislators to be added to the 2013 tax roll, and a copy be given to the town clerk pursuant to section 198, section 3 of the town law. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the Water and Wastewater Director and to the Finance Manager.
A motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, and the second,
Second?
Mr. Mannix. Discussion. Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Mannix,
Yes.
Paul Moy,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 325, access to personnel files, amendment for Finance Manager Patrick Bowen.
Whereas the town board desires to maintain appropriate policy concerning access to personnel files, whereas the day-to-day work requirements and management of the town business often requires access to the files for information or to update file data. And whereas Resolution 12-296 was passed, making Patrick Bowen Finance Manager for the town of Plattsburgh, and as Finance Manager who will need access to the files for his job. Now therefore be resolved that the Employee Personnel Access Policy be amended from Resolution 8-102 to include position of Finance Manager assigning to the Budget Office, and it is further resolved that the bookkeeper also have a copy added to the policy book. And it is further resolved that a copy of this be placed in Mr. Bowen's personnel file.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Roy, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, any discussion? It's a slight amendment. We really should, in the next to last resolve, indicate that these are policy books. We have, I believe, 7 official policy books in various places, and the bookkeeper would appropriately go through, update, and make sure that has changed. Paul, do you have any problem with that? And Tom?
No.
Okay, roll call, please.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Mark Minick? Yes. Paul Lemoyne?
Yes.
Bernie Bassett?
Yes, resolution carries. At this time, I think it would be appropriate if there is a motion to go into executive session to discuss the work history of a particular individual, and I think we've indicated who, Mr. Karofsky in the water department. Paul made the motion, second Mr. Mannix. Okay, any discussion on that motion? Get a roll call, please.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Mark Minick?
Yes.
Paul Lemoyne?
Yes.
Bernie Bassett?
Yes, we will go into executive session. It's 8:10, and I do expect some